This episode of Two Beers Till Takeoff is sponsored by No Days Wasted, a leader in the hangover supplement industry. Listeners can now get 15% off their next purchase by using promo code 2beers. That's 2beers, beers in capital at checkout. Live life or your next trip to the maximum with No Days Wasted.
Hello and welcome to Two Beers Till Takeoff, the podcast inspired by conversations overheard at the airport bar. Join Phil as he grabs a couple of beers and chats with interesting people from around the world, sharing expert knowledge and hilarious stories that you won't find in your guidebook. So pull up a stool and get ready for an adventure as we explore worlds of travel and beyond with Two Beers Till Takeoff.
4 hours in a Taliban headquarters.
I had dog meat in Laos.
Was it Golden Retriever?
Smack a dirty old smooch on our beautiful fish right here.
He didn't die, but he fell down the side of the mountain.
Hello and welcome to Two Beers Till Takeoff. My name is Phil, and today we have a cyclist and filmmaker who has traveled and documented trips around the world. Most recently, this wild man biked across the US with no money, no food, and documented the kindness he received from strangers. His documentary, We Are All in This Together, which has received numerous awards worldwide, is out now and is available to watch on Apple TV, Amazon TV, and Google Play. Welcome to the show, Daniel Troia.
Thank you, Phil. I'm super stoked to be here, and I love the idea of your podcast, man. I was thinking about how times have been changing, and the idea of just sitting in a bar at an airport and talking to someone and sharing stories, like that doesn't happen as much anymore. You know, people are on their phones, etc. You know what I mean? So I love the idea of your podcast, man.
Dude, and I'm super pumped for you to be on because, I mean, you know, I'm always looking for guests, and for a guest to reach out, dude, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this is awesome. I'm so happy that you're on. So Daniel, listen, I want to start from the top. How'd you get into traveling?
Yeah, great question. So when I was 20 years old, my best friend got the opportunity to play baseball in the Netherlands. And he's like, hey, man, you got to come and visit me. And then the funny thing was I was so naive at 20. I was like, oh, fine, I guess I'll come. And I was like bummed that I had to leave the country to go to Europe. And the day I went crazy. Like the day I arrived in Amsterdam, I will never forget. My buddy and I went for a bike ride into the countryside, and it was the first hour of being out of the country, out of the United States, and my whole world was blown. And I was like, oh my God, there's this whole world out here that I've never seen before. And instant, like so vivid, that feeling. And then we spent a month traveling around Europe and staying in hostels and meeting people. And this is before smartphones and stuff. So it was so beautiful because it's like, okay, we need to find a hostel. It's like, well, let's go talk to a local person and just ask them like, hey, do you know anything? Like, where can we go, etc. And just, we kind of winged some of that Euro trip. We were just asking people like, where you been? You know, and it's like people kept talking about this place called Cinque Terre in like Italy. So it's like, okay, cool, man. Let's take a train up there and go check it out. And it was such a beautiful experience, man. And just coming back after that at 20, like just mind blown and just like been addicted since. Like that's all I think about is like, okay, what's the next trip?
Yeah. And like just something that you mentioned there, like asking a local or just asking somebody at the hostel, where did you go today? What did you do today? What's good?
Yep.
That's such the best. Like people, they sometimes shit on hostels because, you know, they have their idea of whatever a hostel can be. They've maybe watched the movie and they're like, Jesus Christ, I don't want to die. and then, you know, you get that information. Like me and my fiance, we travel together. We still do hostels. We'll go to a place, we'll start at a hostel, and then we'll stay at a hotel after because we need that in like that current information, right? You go to a hostel, you're like, hey, what happened? Or what'd you do today? What did you think about this place? Did you prefer this place or that place? Oh, that place is a lot better. But your travel guide who was published 5 years ago says, go to this place, go to this restaurant, do this thing. It's full of shit, right? Hostels are the best fucking travel guides.
I agree, man. And just like you said, like, dude, you're so right. And you know, when you show up to a hostel, it's like, cool, this person's from New Zealand, this person is from Germany, this person is from China. And it's like, hey, we're sharing this room tonight. Like, let's go out together. Like, let's go have
Yeah.
dinner and go out and check out the city together. And then you spend that one night with these people, and then usually you go your separate ways. And it's so cool because it becomes this like really unique travel experience.
It's like a rent a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man.
No, that's cool, man. That's an interesting experience, and I think that also, especially as an American, and there's a stereotype that Americans don't really know much past their borders, and unfortunately, it is true for most people, right?
Totally.
It's
Totally.
something in the education system. It's not the people.
Yeah.
It's just something that you don't really learn, right? So,
Yeah.
like for example, like we're in New Year's Eve, we went to Quebec City, and we met a couple who are from the state below us, so literally like 3 hours away drive from where I live, and they're like, "Oh, where are you guys from?" We're like, "Oh, we're from New Brunswick."
Yeah.
They're like, "Never heard of it." But anyways, it's an interesting concept, and I'm glad that you went past that. You got that first experience in the Netherlands, and you fucking look at you now. How many countries are you on to now?
I think it might be like 14 or something.
Okay,
So
nice.
it's yeah. And yeah, a lot of them it's been through bicycle travel, and just just falling in love with it. With it's just like what's interesting is like each time I travel, and this is I'm trying to catch that initial culture shock and high that you experience the first time. So I keep kind of pushing it a little bit differently and thinking like, okay, how can I make this travel experience different so I get that endorphin rush, from an adrenaline.
Yeah, and I think some people who travel, like listen, me included. I'll be completely honest. You go to the capital, or you're like, oh, I've been to the country, but you have a different perspective because you say you maybe been to 14 countries, but you've seen 70% of that country, or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? You have some more real life, like you've lived in that country. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a great point, man. That's what I love about bike travel is when you're on a bike, you're really out in it. And
Yeah.
so like you're riding through the landscape. So if you're riding through Switzerland, it's like the Swiss Alps because like you had to ride over them. So you were breathing in the Swiss the air, you were taking in your landscapes. And when you're on a bike, especially with all your bags and everything, if you're on a bike tour and your sleeping bag, people are curious. So they come up to you and then so it's a great way to meet locals because of their curiosity, And again, the slow pace of just going slow and taking in your surroundings, and that's what's so wonderful because you really connect with the areas you're riding through when you're on a bike.
Yeah. I want to transition and talk about your first documentary, Two Wheels to Freedom, which documents your travel, I guess, your cycling journey from Italy to Netherlands. It is available on YouTube, and it is awesome. People go check it out. I watched it, and listen, I've got some notes, and I just want to give you my notes on it, right?
For sure.
Number one, most important note, when you were cycling, you were rocking some deadly headsets, which I think you are rocking right fucking now.
Still got him, baby. Still got him. 1998. You know what I'm saying?
So my question to you is, what CD were you blasting when you're going up hills?
Exactly. Will Smith, Big Willie style.
Wild Wild West?
Oh, no, that was before. Oh, yeah, that was the next one. Wild Wild West was on the next one. Or no, was it on the one?
No, I'm coming to Miami.
Welcome to Miami, getting jiggy with it. That was the first CD I ever bought as a kid. So, yeah, I'm stuck in that era with the 90s headphones.
Man, I saw that. And I was like, oh my fucking God. And dude, you put them on, and I was like, okay, I got to hold this.
Oh, nice.
Fucking deadly, dude. Fucking
yeah.
But like, really, what were you blasting? What were you playing when you're going up those tough hills?
Man, those tough hills, usually like rock music. Like I love a band called Black Pistol Fire. It's a 2-piece band from Texas, and it's just like blues rock, and like just love it. And usually that's what I'm listening to most of the time. But it's interesting when I'm going up the hills. But I would start the first half of the day on a bike tour, and I've been doing this for the last 3 bike tours. Is I don't listen to any music in the first half of the day because I'm trying to be like more like present and just trying to take in my surroundings, etc. But then after lunch, when I'm starting to feel a little more fatigued, it's like, all right, let's put on some music and cruise now.
Yeah, because the music kind of stimulates you, right? It gets you going.
For sure.
Keeps you awake.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 2, there's a really great moment that you had, and you said I don't even know where I'm going right now, and I don't care.
Yeah.
And dude, that right there is why you travel. Like why you travel is to attain that mindset.
Yeah, man. Dude, this is why I like talking to you, man, because you get these like travel moments of like that, because I feel the same way like with that particular clip, because it's true, man. Like it's just the free spirit of it, and like this road is sweet. I'm going to keep following this road. I don't know where it's taking me, but right now it just feels I'm going with my gut on this road, and
Yeah.
then we'll see where it takes me. And that's what travel is, man. Sometimes you don't know where you're going to sleep for the night or who you're going to meet, what kind of like weather conditions they're going to be, and just that's what's special about it. Especially, and like I work in physical therapy, and I just say use your body while you can and go and travel and just
Thank
like
you.
stay in weird places and stay in hostels, and or if you're camping, or say yes to opportunities with people, because eventually, we will get old and these things will be way more difficult to do. So do it while you can.
Yeah, dude, that's I've got fucking goosebumps. Got fucking goosebumps right now. Um, I turned 33 this year, and or recently, and I guess that's a little bit. You know what I mean? You hit 30 and you start to oh shit, my back's a little fucked up. Like I went through two knee surgeries, and
Oh,
yeah, dude, and then I was like I wanted to go running, and I was like, fuck, I can't go running, dude. Like I just went through surgeries, like meniscus
yeah,
surgery,
yeah,
and I was like, am I doing everything I can to feel better, or am I just kind of sulking? And I was like, you're kind of being a little bitch right now. So hit physio super hard, and like I did a half marathon last year, didn't get to finish a marathon last year, and this year I'm doing another marathon this year.
that's great, man. Congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment, especially after two surgeries.
Yeah, dude, it's a little tougher. You got to do some yoga, do some, you know what I mean. You got to. There's a lot of work involved, but yeah, it's really it's definitely something to exactly what you said. Use your body while you can, because or else
Yeah.
you're going to be looking back at 60 and be like, fuck, oh, I should have. Oh, that would have been a
Yep.
lot of fun to. And not to say that you can at 60, but it's a lot easier to get at it before to create those habits.
Exactly. Yep.
Number three, you're ripping Italian and German. Are you a native Italian speaker?
No, so my grandpa was from Sicily, and when I was a little kid, I'll never forget. I used to see my dad and my grandpa speaking Sicilian with each other, and I
Mm.
remember thinking, I want to do that. And then I asked my dad. I said, Dad, like, can I learn Sicilian? And he said, you're better off learning Italian because you can use it a lot more. So I took 2 semesters of Italian at at like a community college, and then I went and worked in Sardinia, Italy, the island out there for a summer. I was working in a restaurant out there, and then yeah, it was cool because I was living with other Italians, so I was just like really engulfed in the language and the culture, and so I started picking it up. And then the German, it's just like I speak like broken German because I've spent a couple summers, which you can see in the movie Two Wheels to Freedom. Ding, that's my little plug.
Switzerland, dude. Jesus Christ, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Switzerland's so beautiful, man. And I've been fortunate to stay on a farm out there the last couple summers, and I work with this family, and that's all I hear. They don't speak English or anything, so I just hear it, and it's amazing how your brain just picks these things up if that's all you're listening to.
Yeah, and that actually segues perfectly to my next point. One of the notes I had is that it's crazy the bonds that you make with people that you don't understand with. You know what I mean? Like um, people sometimes that I talk to, I guess, they're scared. Oh, if I go to this country, I don't speak the language. Like, people might not understand me, and it might not be a good experience. But like, I think you're proof that you can go in this country, and you maybe have broken German, or
Yeah.
I don't know what language they spoke, but you're able to communicate and you're able to thrive. And you know what I mean? Like when you were leaving, you could see that the old couple that you were living with, they actually really liked you, and you could just tell by how they were like interacting with you, right? So it's a really cool moment.
Yeah, I'm glad you recognize that, because for me, they become like family. And I've stayed with
Yeah.
them now at this point like 5 summers. And again, they don't speak any English, but like the fact that we're sitting down with each other and we're having meals together, we're working together, and you just really you form a bond and you make it work. Like they don't like I don't speak a lot of German, but like you do what you can, and then you use your hands. And it's pretty amazing actually when you're trying to communicate with somebody who doesn't speak the same language as you. Just if you catch a word here or there, you can kind of have an idea what they're talking about.
Yeah. I feel that too, dude. Because I got a scholarship to go study in Germany,
Awesome.
and it was super last minute,
Yeah.
and I didn't think I was gonna get it. So I was like, dude, there's no point in even trying to learn German. I get it, and I had to leave within like a few weeks. Showed up, dude, and like nobody speaks English. It was a small town in Germany,
Nice.
and I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Anyways, so you get to a point where you have to be in survival mode and just kind of make it, right?
Exactly.
Like your brain will make, you know what I mean? If somebody points to something and says, "Hey, this is that," or you know what I mean, you'll associate because you have to survive, right? So you just trust in yourself, and no matter what the language is or the barrier is, you're gonna figure it out.
That's well said, and dude, that's like a lesson that comes with traveling and in general. Like you're picking up these new skills that because you're stepping out of your comfort zone and you're forcing yourself to make it. And like you said, you're in survival mode. And then it's amazing when you get back from a trip, you just feel like life back home feels so easy,
Like I don't have to negotiate for my food.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly, right?
I know all the words here.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a couple more, but the boar, holy shit, and getting shot at in Austria, holy shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, the boar was a hilarious situation because I don't know how I got so lost. I ended up in the mountains, and then I came down this big hill because I had like 45 pounds of gear, I think. And like I came down this big like dirt hill in the mountains, and my bike's not set up for that or anything. It's not like a road or a mountain bike. And I got to the bottom of the hill. I hit this fence that was like someone's property, but then I couldn't push my bike back up the hill. So I'm like, well, I guess I gotta just keep going. And then I was just like going through like bushes and stuff, man, just being like, I don't know where I am. It was out in the Italian countryside. And I started hearing this weird sound. And I'm like, that thing, it sounds big. And I don't know what that is, but it sounds angry. And dude, it was crazy. Like right when I turned to look to my left, like this boar runs across. That was actually the boar's baby. And so I got really scared because I'm like, oh shoot, like now the mother is definitely in protective mode.
Yeah.
And that was, I remember leaving that place and just like looking behind my back, and looking for the boar. And then eventually I came across this like woman's backyard in the middle of the mountains. And she's just like, where are you coming from? Like, some random American guy just shows up in her backyard in the mountains, man.
Are we being invaded?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And then in regards to getting shot at, I mean, dude, that is probably the weirdest, one of the weirdest things that ever happened while traveling. I mean, basically I was riding through Austria, right? And there was like, just like a whole day worth of just everywhere there was apples, and it was apple fields or apple orchards. It was so beautiful. And I was just like snacking on apples, here and there. And I wasn't like going far onto people's property, but like along a bike path, there was like apple trees. So I'm like, yeah, I'll indulge. And then towards the end of the day, like I'm grabbing an apple and like this guy comes out of his yard, right, or his house, and he has a shotgun with him. And at that point, I didn't feel threatened at all. Like I just thought, you're in the countryside, like he has a shotgun or whatever. But I could tell he was
I have to make the joke. You felt like you were a little bit at home, right?
Exactly. It felt like America. You know what I'm saying? It felt like America. Yeah, and but I could tell he was like kind of stumbling a little bit. He seemed drunk, and he said something in German. I don't know what he said, but I could tell it's something in regards to like get out of here. And absolutely, like I do want to like I was eating an apple that was on his property, so definitely leave. Mm. And as I'm riding off, dude, like I just hear this shot, and it scared the shit out of me, man. Like I have just like, I think. Like he was just trying to scare me, but still like.
You don't expect that.
No, didn't expect that. And it sounded close. I mean, dude, it sounded close to me.
I was watching, like I was more surprised by the shot than the boar, obviously, just because I didn't expect it. Yes. You know what I mean? You're just riding, you're like, oh shit, like what the fuck? It's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was crazy. That was nuts, man.
And
Yeah.
I guess my last note, or I guess the last thing, as someone who really liked your documentary, is there
Thank
any
you.
stories from that trip that didn't make it to the documentary?
Yeah. So I was riding through Italy, and I was in Bologna, and I got there late at night, and I didn't have any food, and I figured it's a big city, like I can grab some Italian food, and all the restaurants were closed. It may have been a holiday or something, and the only restaurant that was open was a thing called American Grill, and I'm like, dude, this is a sin. Like and I don't want to be that guy, that American who goes and like eats like at a McDonald's, for example, in Italy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was the only place that was open, so I'm like, oh god, okay, like I'm just gonna go in, and I had a really bad feeling, man. And dude, like, I don't remember, like some kind of meat, and then I was riding my bike the next morning, and dude, I just started throwing up, like
Oh,
while like I was
fuck.
biking, and dude, like I think I was like 20 miles or something away from a town, and dude, I had a fever, and like I just had like bad food poisoning, and dude, I was literally throwing up, and then it'd be like, okay, I threw up, and then it'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go and like just leave my bike on the side of the road right here, and just like relieve myself in a bush,
Yeah.
and like it just was terrible. And but then I feel like, well, that's what you get if you're in Italy and you eat American food. That's what you get.
Dude,
That's what you get.
that's so funny you say that. I was in Spain. We were in
Yeah.
San Sebastian, the north of Spain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we, obviously indulging in the Spanish culture, getting that tapas, amazing
Of course.
food, seafood, all this. It's so good. And right next to our hotel was a Burger King. And one day I was there with my mom, and like, oh, let's go grab a Burger King, dude. We barely finished the meal, and we had to race upstairs to food poisoning.
Yep. Yeah. And again, it's punishment. It's just like it's the universe speaking. The travel gods. They're saying, listen, when you're in the country, like you need to be eating their food and not eating like American food.
You need to take
Or
some
whatever.
chances with the local food, not the American food.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
The American,
for sure.
American franchises. So
Yeah.
so was Two Wheels to Freedom, was that your first bike trip?
That was my second. Yeah, that was my second. My first bike trip was I met this girl. I was living in Amsterdam for the summer when I was 25, and I met this girl who was biking across Europe, and she was busking for money, playing music for money and by herself. And I remember I went up to her after her little performance, and I was like, "Wait, so you're telling me you're riding your bike across the continent?" And I had never even heard about that, and like she's like, yeah, just go do it. And she said it so nonchalantly. And dude, that girl changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. And I thought, dude, if she's doing it, then like maybe I could, And then a couple of years later, I thought I'd love to do to go across the country. And I went with a buddy. And dude, like I remember leaving Portland, Oregon, because our goal was to get to Portland, Oregon to New York City. And I literally, at 28 years old, had never even slept in a tent before. I'd never even camped. And it's crazy, man. And that's what was so beautiful about this bike trip, is because I literally knew nothing. I was so stimulated every day with like this new lifestyle. And then as time went on, like throughout the trip, you start learning like, okay, like you can like stealth camp, like sleep kind of like in places like off the side of the road, and like just you start becoming more acclimated with the lifestyle, and it's just like I fell in love with it after that.
That's really cool, man. Like, so for you, like even before you met this chick, so that means you had no like desire to do this type of trip before, or is it
No.
like we're really inspired that day? You're like, shit, I can do this.
Yeah, she inspired it. I mean, I do remember growing up, my grandpa, I mentioned he was from Sicily. To get to California from New York, he was hopping like boxcars and like old trains in like the 1930s.
Oh,
And he
shit.
used to tell me stories about that. And like he would, like with like the hobos, and like he would get dropped off in a random town, like Chicago or something, and he'd like go and knock on a door and be like, hey, like, do you guys need some yard work done? Or like, can I help around the house for a meal? And like, that's what he was doing to like get to California. And I just remember hearing those stories, and I thought like, I would love to do something like that, like.
Dude, you fucking did.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
You did,
Thank
man.
you.
You are your grandfather. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So yeah, let's talk about, I guess, the most recent movie or most recent documentary that just came out here. We're all in this together. So how did this come about?
Yeah, appreciate you bringing it up, man. So So back in like 2000, I don't know, 16 or something, I started to really feel the tension and division in the United States, and it was really just bothering me, just like And at the same time, one of my friends actually she gave me a book called The Kindness of Strangers, and it was about this guy who back in the 1990s he hitchhiked across America with no food, no money, and he wrote a book about it. And after reading that book, I felt so inspired, and I thought, man, I would love to do something like this, but I'd rather do it on a bike.
Mm.
And then I thought, yeah, but I want to film it though. And I thought, well, how could I film it without them, because I don't want to bring a crew with me, and people will act differently if they see a camera, etc. So then I got the idea of using camera glasses, to have my interactions with people, right? And so what I did was I left my home in California, and no food, no money. And I had a sign that said, biking across country, ran out of food, anything helps, right? And then I had my camera glasses. And then so I was standing in front of grocery stores. And if I was fortunate to receive help from somebody, I'd ask them, I'd say, hey, man, like, do you have a story about when somebody helped you and you really needed it? And so I started collecting these stories from people. And yeah, that was kind of how the experience started. And I ended up spending 7 months on the road doing that.
Jesus. So where did you go? Which place did you start, and where did you end up?
Yeah, so I started in Monterey, California, and yeah, I went across the middle of the country, across the Sierra Nevadas the first week, and crossed the loneliest road in America, which is that's the nickname for it. It's this highway that goes through the middle of the Nevada desert, and then crossed the Colorado Rockies, crossed Kansas, and then rode along the Missouri River, and then from then I just kind of weaved through the cornfields and made my way over the Appalachian Mountains eventually, and then made my way to New York City. And my original plan was to stop in New York City, but I just felt something like I wanted to keep going. So I ended up coming back, spent another 3.5 months traveling back. I did some hitchhiking along the way, and then was riding through Montana, like in snowstorms and stuff. And it started getting really hard towards the end,
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy, man. So 7 months on the road.
Yeah.
What was the hardest point? Was it hitting the snow?
What's funny is, I mean, physically, like as far as cycling, the hardest part was crossing Pennsylvania, because at that point I'd already crossed like, I think it was like 26 mountain passes or something, and like it was already like 3,000 miles. And the thing is, like when you're in the Rockies, there's more like gradual switchbacks, so it's not as steep. You know what I mean? But like in Pennsylvania in the Appalachian Mountains, it's just like straight up, straight down. And my legs at that point were feeling super weak. So that was like a real challenge to get it. And like the humidity in Pennsylvania, like in August, was just crazy. And
yeah, that's true.
So that was the most challenging cycling wise. Yeah.
Is there any point that you were like, I can't do this, I'm quitting?
Yeah. The closest I was to quitting, man, is actually in the film, is towards the end when I was in Oregon, and just, dude, I was feeling so mentally and physically beat up. It was the stress of the lifestyle I was living, because I was, so holding a sign in public, like I never had any like privacy really. I was always out in public view, and then just like the struggle to find a safe place to sleep, because I was stealth camping the whole time, and there was like some things that happened that along the way where it got like super dangerous and traumatized me. And so I was feeling that, and then just like, just the stress of the lifestyle was beating me down mentally, and then physically too. My right hip specifically was just like, it kept locking up. And at that point, 6 months into the trip, I was only riding like maybe 30 miles a day, which was like half of what I was riding before. And I remember calling the physical therapist I worked with before I took this trip and saying like, I think I'm done. I think I can't go any longer, And then, dude, it was within a day or two of having that experience that I met somebody who was in the film who just totally like came through in the moment that I needed it. And like after meeting him and having the interaction with him, he changed my life. And it gave me like the motivation. I was like, okay, I can finish this.
I haven't seen this movie because I guess as we're filming it, it's not out yet. It's coming out tomorrow, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
But it sounds like Into the Wild meets Forrest Gump meets Channel 5. Am I on the right track here?
Yeah. It's a combination of a lot of things, man. It was really challenging to try to figure out when I got back after this experience to like, what kind of movie do I want to put together? Because there was just like so many different experiences that happened along the way. And like, first of all, there was the adventure aspect of like you're riding your bike across the continent,
Right.
and that's really cool. And especially with like drone footage and stuff and that I had. And then there's the aspect of it, like this lifestyle that was like super unique of like, you're living like kind of on the streets in some ways, and you're having like hundreds of interactions with people, and some of them are dangerous and some of them are really beautiful, and it took me like a year to really understand the experience. I actually made like 3 versions of the film because the first version, I feel like I started editing it too early and I didn't really understand my experience. So yeah, it's a combination of a lot of things, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, it almost feels like the ultimate experience to do this type of movie, right? Because you're not necessarily just making a movie, you're living a movie, right? You're out
Yeah.
there, you're risking your life in some parts, I assume, right? Like you're living on the streets. Like obviously there's people who are looking for resources, right? So it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and I always like to acknowledge too, man, like I chose to do this and I could have stopped at any time because there's certain people that like they don't have a choice, and
Sure.
so I was fortunate in that way to where I could have just quit at any time. But definitely there were times where it made me think about people who live on the streets, like in that, like you said, they have no choice and just how dangerous it is, especially
Yeah.
like women who
Yeah.
like have to sleep out on the streets. Like it's because there was definitely a couple times when like people coming up to my tent and it's like 3 a.m. and it's just like it's traumatizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy experience, and like I said, looking forward to see it. Um, I guess this documentary's gotten so many awards and stuff like that. How does this kind of start from you having this vision, filming this journey to getting awards to like even just having a documentary on Apple TV and Amazon Prime? Like how does that all happen? Like
Yeah, it's a trip, man. It's a trip. Like I've never had this ever happen to me before, but this is the one time it happened. When I came up with the idea, I was riding my bike. That and because my riding my bike stimulates my thoughts, right? And it just blood flow circulation, and I just always feel so inspired. And this idea came to me, and the moment it came to me, it was the most sure thing I'd ever had in my whole life. I'm like, oh my gosh, this just totally makes sense. And so throughout the whole process, I just felt like it was all working out the way exactly how it was supposed to be. And so as far as like film festivals and stuff, and then getting it out there, I feel so honored because it's a collaboration with all these people I met. Because the people who showed up into my life, like they created this story, and then I documented it. And that's what's so beautiful about this, because the idea of the film, it's about togetherness, and the people who are in it, like who I met, like we collaborated, and that's the result of this. And it's a really beautiful experience, and it's cool because like after film festivals, because I think that everybody who watches the film will be able to relate to at least one person in the movie, right? Because again, they're sharing stories, and a lot of the stories about hardships that they've faced, or grief, or adversity they've overcome. And so when I showed at film festivals, sometimes people will come up to me afterwards and they'll say, I really related to the woman who lost her child, because I've lost a child, and it made me think about how she got through it. And so it gives me inspiration that I can get through it. And it's like super beautiful because like they're sharing these vulnerable stories with me. And yeah, I feel so honored.
And you mentioned that obviously since 2016 you felt that the United States, there's been a political divide, where there's one side to the other side, and there just seems to be that they're getting more and more extreme. And that's not just in the United States. We're seeing that in
You're right.
different countries across the
Yeah.
world. And you mentioned that togetherness, is something that's important, kind of everybody realizing that we're all in this together. How do you think that we can achieve that?
The first thing is we need to talk to each other in person. We need to stop arguing over like through the internet, man. Because just like we were like, again, the theme of your podcast, it's you're sitting, like the idea behind it, if from what I understand, is it's like you're sitting at a bar at an airport and you're talking in person with somebody, right? And you're sharing stories, and dude, I used to be a bartender for like 10 years, right? And like, I remember when I first started, people would have like political disagreements at the bar, but they were respectful because they were in person, right? And then I felt like because they're communicating in person, it's like, you know what? I don't agree with him, but I understand where he's coming from now. But when people are on the internet, it just brings out the worst in people in the comments section because there's no accountability. There's no accountability, man. And like, I think we need to stop being afraid of each other, and we need to talk to people who are different than us.
Yeah.
Because if you really look at it, man, like, dude, there's so many things that we all share in common, right? If you just start talking to the person.
Yep. Yeah, you're completely right. And I think that, you know, we're in a time too where people are attacking what you say, and it's like we have to be able to communicate with each other and to find the middle ground and you know, bring the extremes back to the middle.
Yep, you're right. Because there's no hope for humanity if we continue to stay divided. There's not. We need to work together.
No, completely agree. But with that, listen, Daniel, let's get to Q&A.
Q&A.
So first question, hot or cold?
Hot.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains, baby.
Bus or train?
Train.
I thought you were gonna break the rules and just go bike.
That would have been good, yeah.
Cats or dogs?
Oh gosh, cats, man.
I gotta go. Favorite sports team?
Cleveland Browns.
Let's go.
Brownies.
Cleveland Browns. Dude, I just want to let you know you are the first person to say the Cleveland Browns on this podcast, and maybe ever.
Yeah. I think a lot of people didn't even know that they still existed. You know what I mean?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, this game that's coming up on Saturday is going to be really interesting. The Deshaun Watson Bowl, right?
Yeah, really, that's a good point. Yeah, and the Browns have nothing to lose, man. I think they're a scary team to play because there's no expectations. People didn't expect to see them there in the playoffs, so they're dangerous, I think.
And if everything, so we did an episode yesterday where we did some NFL picks, and I think if the Cleveland Browns win and kind of what people think will happen, they're going to play the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, and wouldn't that be interesting?
Jesus Christ.
Joe Flacco returning to Baltimore as a Cleveland Brown.
And winning.
Right?
Dude, yeah. I'm telling you, didn't they beat them this year? I'm pretty sure Cleveland beat the Ravens this year.
Yeah. And you know what was the hilarious stat I heard, man? Was like it's a couple of years ago when Roethlisberger was still playing. The stat was like, who has the most wins? What quarterback has the most wins at the Cleveland Browns stadium? And it was Ben Roethlisberger, who plays for the Steelers. Like, not even one of their own players had the most wins in the stadium.
That's dusty, dude. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Fly.
Hell yeah. If you could have a beer with a person dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh.
A person from history.
Yeah, probably Jack Kerouac or something.
Who's that?
Yeah, it was a traveler across the United States, wrote a lot of interesting books about traveling and free spirit. And yeah, I think he lived an interesting life, so I think it'd be with him.
Cool.
Yeah.
What era was he around in?
I think it was in like the 30s and 40s, something like that, I think.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What's something you never travel without?
Something I never travel without. Oh, my headlamp. I love my headlamp.
I thought you were going to say headphones.
Headphones, hey, these two, 1998, baby.
They still work, dude. Fuck. What is your favorite world attraction?
I'd have to go the mountains and the Swiss Alps. Like, absolutely.
Dude, in your documentary, I knew how, like, I've flown over the Alps. I've been to Munich. You know, you can see the Alps from certain areas in Munich. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's hard to put into words the beauty of those mountain passes or those mountain ranges, and it's just so gorgeous. Switzerland doesn't even feel real. Like, I've been fortunate to spend 5 summers there, and still to this day, like, there's not a day that goes by when I'm there that I just think, like, I can't believe this place is real. You know?
You just leave the door of the house and you're just like, holy shit.
Yeah, so amazing, man.
I lived near Switzerland and I never went because I was a student then, and it was just so damn expensive.
Yeah, I think it's still the most expensive country in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. How do you kind of so when you're there, do you feel like you have to work there to kind of?
Yeah, there's no way I could stay if I wasn't living with that family, because it's yeah, incredibly expensive. And the fortunate thing about working on that farm with that family is like, all the meals are included. Like I don't pay, I work in exchange for a place to stay, and I
Yeah.
love that style of travel because
Yeah.
you really get to know the culture and the people, and you know.
Yeah, because I mean, like, it's great to go to a place that, like Europe, for example, like for our dollar, it's 30 cents on the dollar. For you guys, I think it's on par. But you go to Switzerland, it's like even more. It's like, eesh, like I should probably go to like South America. I should look. I mean, it's nice to vacation in Switzerland, I'm sure, but it's just going to a place where your dollar goes a bit further is obviously nice too.
Yeah,
Not to shit on
absolutely.
Switzerland because it's definitely on my list. It's amazing.
Yeah, but there's no denying. I mean, it's incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which country has the best cuisine?
Italy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, hey, you talking to a Sicilian here?
Hey! What is your biggest travel pet peeve?
When Americans wear shirts that have American like an entire American flag shirt, and it's just like, hey, look at me, I'm American. That gets to me. But it brings me to a question though, and I have a theory. I've noticed that so many Canadians I've seen so many Canadians on their backpack, they have a Canadian flag, and I don't see that like a patch. I don't see that with other countries, and my theory is that they don't want to be confused with Americans. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Yeah,
But-
I get it.
But Daniel, I will add to that, and I've caught an American before with a Canadian patch.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So she's like, I said, "Oh, where are you from?" She's like, "Oh, I'm from Toronto." And I was like, "Okay, that's a deadpan. That's not how they say it. They say Toronto."
Oh.
I was like, "Oh yeah, what part?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm not from Toronto or Toronto." It's like, okay, dude. But
Yeah.
no, listen, dude, it happens.
Interesting. Yeah, because I always thought that, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Well, listen. I have, somebody has said, and listen, I'll just say this in all honesty: USA is number one because they are the number one listers of Two Beers Till Take Off. So I have to give props. But I have gotten negative reactions to people thinking I'm American.
Yeah, and I think, yeah,
it's not for people like you, Daniel. You're a great person.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
Listen, there's
yeah.
shitty people of each population. It's just that unfortunately, I think people associate Americans with that shitty population.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm super grateful to be an American. There's so many opportunities I have that other countries don't have. It's just I think that we do when Americans travel, there is a certain percentage that has a sense of entitlement,
Sure.
and they and they don't like to try to adjust to the cultures and customs of other countries because we don't have to do that here.
Yep.
Everybody speaks English around the world, right? But sometimes I think it's, if you're in France, try to say a couple words and just please and thank you in French,
Or even like, do you speak English? Like that's huge.
You're right. Instead of just assuming that this person, like you're in their country and you're just assuming that they speak like your language, it's like, well, you're a guest here. So yeah.
That's a good point. Tell me your best travel hack.
Best travel hack, dumpster diving.
Hell yeah.
Dumpster diving. Yeah. So, on my bike trip across the country, I've done it in a lot of countries around, in Europe and also the US. So many grocery stores throw away food that's perfectly fine and just past the sell-by date. And so when I travel, save a lot of money, just go to the grocery stores at different times of the day and grab your snacks for the day. Yeah. Especially if you're in the summertime, tons of fruit, bread. There's been steaks, there's pasta. I mean, sweets, just, it's unbelievable. Like, and you can see it in the film, We're on this together, like literally dumpsters full of food that's just getting thrown out. It's a huge problem. But, so yeah, when you're traveling, man, just go to the back of the grocery store and grab some food.
Nice. That's a good one. What's the most underrated country you've been to?
Most underrated country I've been to. Great question. Great underrated country. I'd say Sicily. Yeah, and the reason is with Sicily, like, the people are extremely social, and like I love the fact that 6 p.m. and this is, like everybody goes down to the main street and like converses with each other.
Yeah.
And and I love that because you're just seeing a lot less of that in other places and around the world. And I love that they still like, they do that. And like, the travel writer, Rick Steves, the OG,
My biggest enemy.
is he,
No,
is he your enemy?
I'm kidding.
Oh, gotcha. I thought there was a story behind that. But, I remember he was quoted as saying something like, when you're in Sicily and you see like 3 old men sitting on a bench, go and sit with those old men, and like, just because again, like they just converse with each other. And I think I just love that about Sicily. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Where's somewhere you'd never go back?
Okay. So this is no disrespect to the country. This is my personal opinion, but I don't have any desire to go back to Germany. And I know you've spent some time there. For me, it's just, it's very structured and organized, which is a good thing in a lot of ways. But for me, I don't feel super comfortable because of the structure and organization.
Sure.
That's just for me.
Right.
So,
dude, I literally was having a conversation with somebody today, and he's like, you know what? You know why I like your podcast? Because you don't just say that everything's nice.
Yeah.
Because that's what everybody else does. They're like, this
True.
place is so great, and this place is so great, and this place is so great. But it's like, yeah, but what did you like and what did you not like?
What didn't you like? Yeah.
Have a fucking opinion.
Yeah, and it's okay to not like something.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's okay. It's not offensive. Yeah. Like, get over it.
Yep.
Where did you experience the least friendly locals? Maybe a segue to the last question.
The least friendly locals. So through my experience, the least friendly was in Idaho. And in Idaho, I was flagged. For example, this is one of the things that happened. I was in this rural town in the mountains, and this guy flagged me down in this truck, and he said, hey, where are you going? And I said, oh, I'm going to the next town. I was on my bike tour, Yeah. And he said, where are you from? I said, I'm from California. And he goes, oh, he's like, you shouldn't tell people that from around, you shouldn't say that to people around here. I'm like, okay. And he's like, we're all carrying guns around here, right? Like, okay, and then he just like mean mugs me and then just like slowly drives off. And then the same day there was like 3 different guys in like big pickup trucks who like pulled up in front of me and then just like blew exhaust in my face and then drove off. Yeah. And I like to acknowledge that was my experience. And I'm not saying that, of course, not everybody is like that in Idaho, but you asked the question, that was my experience with the least friendly people that I've come in contact with was in that state. And it doesn't define the state as a whole.
No, Idaho's a wonderful state.
They've got nice trucks with a lot of exhaust in them. Friendly local.
And I guess maybe another segue. But where were you the most scared on your travels?
Most scared?
Yeah.
Yeah. So riding through East St. Louis, I was riding through gang neighborhoods, and that I just felt scared and sad that first of all, the lack of opportunity that they have there, it's so incredibly sad. And yeah, like riding through like real gang neighborhoods where I remember thinking like, that was one of those travel choices where I thought I messed up, man. Like I shouldn't, cause I shouldn't be here, and thankfully like I wasn't harmed while riding through there, but it was like, it's not a joke going through some of those places. Like I thought I'd been through some rough places in the United States, but East St. Louis was on this whole nother level. And, yeah, that was the scariest place I've ever rode through or been through. Yeah. And I feel sad. Because of the lack of opportunity for them, and I actually have a new perspective on people joining gangs because I felt so scared and at risk. Like, it's like, well, yeah, like, of course you join a gang. If you're getting beat up all the time or you're in danger, then I understand how people are drawn towards gangs.
Did you join a gang?
No, I didn't join a gang when I was there. No, didn't join a gang.
Yeah, no, but no, like I made a joke, but like it's definitely super sad. And I have some buddies who I guess it's a super Canadian story, but guy from where we're from got into the NHL, got drafted by the St. Louis Blues, the hockey team there, and they went out to go see him and go see a game, meet the players, whatever, and then kind of they're like, we're in St. Louis, let's go party, let's go have some fun, whatever, and they leave from the game and there's like nobody around. like downtown St. Louis, Saturday, nobody. And I was like, yeah, maybe it's because St. Louis is like, I think top 10 in the murder capitals of the world.
Yeah, there's a lot of poverty and crime out there, and it's a super complex problem that leads to all that, and I just feel for them, and yeah, it makes me look at the opportunities. Like I was born fortunately with a lot of opportunities that just other people don't have,
Yeah.
And so it's understandable if the crime rate's high, if there's lack of opportunity and lack of jobs and poverty, and just like, well, yeah, then people are going to turn to crime, unfortunately.
It's context, right? Like, I mean, if you take away your opportunity or my opportunity, and
Yeah.
you just, if it's poverty, like, dude, like if that's your choice, or it's like we talked about this a little bit about being in a place where you don't speak the language, you have to survive. It's the same thing, right? You have to survive in the area that you're in, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's turn make a corner here and or make a turn here. And what is your favorite cocktail?
What's funny is I don't drink very much, but I would say that my favorite cocktail would probably just like whiskey and Coke.
Right on.
Yeah. And I was a bartender for 10 years. You know what I mean?
Right on. Last question for you. Where in the world is your favorite bar and why?
Where would it be? I'd have to say somewhere in Barcelona. Like Barcelona had and I don't remember like what specific, like the name of it, but like I remember going there with a friend and just like having a really great time. Like it was like Barcelona has, for me, I think probably the best nightlife that I've ever been to, like in the world, and so yeah, somewhere in Barcelona.
Cool. Right on. Let's get to the story.
Story time.
I was biking through Montana, and I was kind of close to Yellowstone, and it was first week of October, and I heard this snowstorm was coming, and there was this 11,000-foot mountain pass. That was the direction I was going, and so they closed the mountain pass to get ready for the storm, right? And so I had to make this decision. It was like, okay, do I want to take a 150-mile detour and not go over the mountain pass, or do I want to try to race this snowstorm and get over this mountain pass, right? And so I figured I'd go for it, and I'd try to ride over this 11,000-foot mountain pass. And yeah, so I start riding up. It took me 5 hours, and it was interesting because like as I was riding up, and I saw the storm getting closer and closer. But at the same time, it was a cyclist's dream because I had this entire mountain pass to myself, like literally, And so I ended up getting up there after 5 hours, and I got to the first peak, and it was snowing at that point, right? And like the ice, there was like ice all over the road, and I was kind of like, it was hard to steer, right? And again, like if the second mountain peak I saw was like covered in like this like dark cloud, and I figured, okay, if it's snowing on this side, like that looks like way worse. So I had to make a decision. It's like, do I just continue going and just see if I can get to the other side, or do I like retrace my steps and go all the way back? And that was like 5 hours of biking up a mountain with 50 pounds of gear, And so I stood there for a couple minutes, and it was one of those moments in my life where I literally thought like, okay, like if I do go for it and I get stuck up here, like they won't find me till the spring. Like literally I could just die and freeze. You're up at 11,000 feet and the mountain pass is closed for the winter, And so what I did was I returned back the way I came. I had to take a 150-mile detour. I did that over the next couple of days. And the crazy thing is at this point of my trip, like my bike trip, I wasn't planning on being out there like that late in the season. So all I had was summer gear, and it got down to 13 degrees 3 nights in a row. And dude, I was wearing every single piece of clothing I had when I went to bed. And I was afraid that I was going to get hypothermia.
Yeah, and it's 13 degrees Fahrenheit, right?
Yeah, so 13 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. So what is that Celsius?
That is negative, I think.
Yeah, negative something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was definitely a crazy experience. And like the weird thing is physically, like it took something out of me after that. Like those 3 nights of sleeping in there that I couldn't get back the rest of my bike trip. It just and again, like I remember like in the mornings, the first thing I would do when I wake up is I would just do a bunch of jumping jacks to try to like warm myself up, So yeah, that was just the thing that comes to mind was dude, yeah, and it was the right decision to turn around, but yeah.
Holy shit. And I mean, like also you're biking in this weather and you're sweating.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And it's so that's getting wet, and it just. I remember thinking like, I might be pushing it too hard, like, But then there was that honestly, but there was that travel side of me where I was like, but dude, this is like a really cool experience, and like, and I live for those kind of like travel stories. So it was worth it, but it was definitely, and it was definitely like a learning experience of. I don't think I would sleep in that kind of weather again without having the proper gear because it just felt like it was like really straining my body and like it's just dangerous.
Holy shit, dude. And I mean, like, I'm a person I've done a lot of camping. I grew up in, I guess, remote areas, and we would go and live in like super remote areas for certain periods of time. And I understand like the cold. Like, I used to live in like the Arctic. I know exactly the dangers that you were living, like the sweating, the like just your feet. Your feet are so important when it's cold, right?
Yeah,
Like your socks, you have to
absolutely.
change your socks. You have like like it's
Yeah.
dude, like you could have 100% died out there.
Yeah, and it's again like I've lived in California my whole life and like it doesn't get cold here. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't, like and like Montana is that's not a joke out there. That's like
No.
extreme, obviously.
Yeah.
You know?
Man,
Yeah.
like just to give context, like we have homeless people who pass out in like a snowbank and they can die. Like
Yeah.
it happens in
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just to kind of throw some context to what could have potentially happened. Like it's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Daniel, listen, I realized I forgot to ask you a question in kind of the beginning portion that I have to get to. What advice, you've lived through a lot and you've done a lot in terms of cycling. What advice can you give to someone listening right now who's like, you know what, I want to bike, but I can't, or you know what I mean? They're telling themselves maybe excuses that they can't. What's the best piece of advice you can give?
Yeah. So like if you want to bike and you want to travel and life is happening right now, right? And do these things while you physically can, right? And the other thing is like we are so much like what these bike tours taught me and what that girl in Amsterdam who was doing her bike across Europe taught me is like we are way more capable than we might believe, right? And the beautiful thing, if you're looking to get into bike touring specifically, you don't have to go across the country and have this super extreme trip. You can take a 3-day trip and ride 10 miles a day, you know? And like that, then that's your experience. It doesn't have to be this like insane trip. And yeah, so I'd say that because there's, like we can always say like, I'll do this when I retire. And when we retire, we're not going to have the energy. Our bodies won't be the same. We probably won't have the same adventure like mindset. So I think that just do it.
Who says you're going to retire?
Great point. Great point. Yeah. And so I think, and I know people have like families and responsibilities, etc. I definitely acknowledge that. But I think also recognize life is happening right now. And it's also I think it's great to challenge yourself, step out of and like learn about yourself. Cause man, like, dude, when you're traveling, especially if you're traveling alone, like you really learn a lot about yourself when you're doing that.
That's the ultimate challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
The friend's the safeguard. You by yourself, it's like you in the world in you know what I mean? Like going through the US, like you're so exposed to everything. Which, sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually a great thing.
It's a great thing. It's a great thing, man. Like our lives are very short. And a lot of us, especially in the Western world, we're super privileged. At least like speaking from the United States, I have so many privileges growing up here. And it's like I have the opportunity to travel and experience new things and meet people. And, the cool thing is when you travel and you meet people who are different than you have a better understanding of those people, and I think there's less judgments and less hatreds towards people who are different after you get to know them. But again, have those conversations in person,
Yeah, absolutely. So Daniel, listen, man, thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome. Can you maybe share a little bit about what's next for you?
Yeah. Thanks for asking, man. So I'm releasing a new film this spring. It's going to be called The Child Within, and it's a film about riding my bicycle across Europe again. And some of the themes are finding the thing that makes you feel like a child again, and for me, it's riding my bike. But there's a lot of themes that come up in the movie. It doesn't have to be about, it's not really necessarily even about cycling. It's just about finding that one thing that makes you feel young. Because I think it's so important, and we lose that as we get older, that wonder that children have, you know? And I think it's really important to hold on to that wonder or recapture it, right? Because it's not just better for your soul, but it's better for I think for humanity in general. To don't forget that like life is such a blessing, and recapture that wonder. So that's going to be available in the spring. It'll be on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is called The Traveling Dude. And that's where you'll be able to find that film.
It's traveling, and not traveling.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. So no G in the traveling. Traveling.
Yeah, because there's like I looked it up the first time and I was like, no, Daniel's not an Indian guy.
Yeah, exactly. Traveling.
Yeah.
Traveling.
Yeah, but looking forward to that. And I guess people go check out your documentary, We're All in This Together. I think for me, your last documentary, the first one, Two Wheels to Freedom, really refilled my tank of, getting excited about travel and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to this new one here. We Are All in This Together, which is out on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, and Google Play right now. So go check it out.
Thank you so much.
And dude, where can people any socials that you want to share?
Yeah, for sure. My Instagram, that'd be cool. My Instagram is _travelin_dude. And again, it's a travelin with no G, the travelin dude. And that's where you can get more updates about like where my film, because I've been having live showings of my of We're All in This Together also. Been doing live showings and raising money for homeless shelters. And so I'll be doing those across different parts of the country this year. So if you're interested in, you should show up to one of the events, if it's in your town, and come and say hi. We'll go for a bike ride.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. Yeah. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. And dude, you get the feeling of like, this guy's awesome. I'm gonna you're gonna come back on it. You're gonna come on to promote your next movie there. What's the name again? Sorry.
The Child Within.
The Child Within. I'm really looking forward to getting a preview for that one. So, dude, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you for listening to Two Beers Till Takeoff. Do you want free additional content or just to stay connected with the show? Then give us a follow on our social media platform. That means TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of them. Are you in need of podcast production services, video editing, or anything in between? Then look no further than Strut Sound Productions, the official producer of the Two Beers Till Takeoff podcast. Music produced by Alex Gagne. Check out his work in our show notes. Voiceover done by Viking Leo K. See you next week on Two Beers Till Takeoff.